All right, Bob, we've got Octopus 2023.4 now available. It's pretty exciting stuff. Lots of great new features in it.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm really excited about this release. We've been working on it for a little while. I've gotten a preview of it over the last couple of months, but I'm really excited now that it's available for everyone to download and install.
Awesome. So here's the list. And I know that for a lot of folks out there, when they look at the what's new, I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes if the list is too long, my eyes just go cross and I'm like, I don't know what's going on in here anymore. So I thought it would be useful if Bob and I could just go through this list of features and maybe show off some demos and kind of put the rubber hits the road sort of demos to showcase what this is all about. So we'll go through each one of these line by line and we'll show off what these things look like and how they work and why they're important, why you should care. So starting off with OIDC. Now, this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and for a variety of reasons. But OIDC, or OpenID Connect, is a auth protocol that is under the auspices of OpenID, which is a foundation slash sort of conglomerate group, whatever you want to call it these days. Basically, they oversee this protocol that allows for server-to-server authentication and agreement, so that you can communicate with each other without having the need for credentials or secrets like an API key, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a really, really nice feature. And let me just show you what this looks like. So this is the screen that you'll see it in. I'll just jump one back. Sorry, I didn't mean to have this one open, but this is typically the screen you'll see with a service account. So service accounts and user accounts are account types that you have available to, or user accounts that you have available for performing actions. And we have a service account type. And inside there, this is where you'll find the OpenID Connect facility now available in Octopus. And this allows you to establish what are called OIDC identities. So an identity is basically an agreed upon user context that you will use when performing actions. So when you click on this, you'll see there are two options. One for GitHub Actions, because there are well-defined sort of aspects to connecting via GitHub that we kind of propagate in. And then there's other issuer, which is if you have another server you want to connect to via OIDC, you can do so. But just showcasing what this looks like, you'll get a screen that looks like this. And you'll ask a lot of questions here for things that relate to GitHub. Now, I'm going to bring up one. This is the Julia Childs reference here of here's one I created earlier. So this is the sort of values that you'll provide. So you give it a name, and this is going to identify operations in Octopus when there's communication between GitHub and Octopus, for example. You'll then specify the organization. So in this case, something that I can connect to could be, individual, for example, the repository that you want to connect to. And then there's a filter of operation types that you want to trigger off of. So there's like branch, environment, pull request, or tag. So you'll select one of these. And this is something that you and I were chatting about. You have to be specific here with the particular type of filter.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I typically now I target the pull requests and then I target the main branch with my GitHub Actions to do that. One thing I really like about this UI, I don't know if anyone's been picking up on this, is at the very bottom line, that subject, that is being built out based on the information that John has entered in there. So you can see it being changed in real time. That was one of the things I got a little confused with when I was first setting this up. Is like, do I have to go in and edit this? Like, what do I got to do to stuff like this?
That's
So
right.
yeah, it's nice that we automatically handle that for a lot of the common use cases.
Okay, so we have this established, and once this is established, we provide you a little bit of YAML that you can take and use within your GitHub Actions. So we have a new GitHub action called login action. This is available up on GitHub, and this will basically utilize the service account ID. This is the ID that will represent the identity that you've just established. So when we go to talk from GitHub to Octopus, and we share this GUID, it will say, aha, I know what you're talking about here. This is on behalf of this service account. Now, a couple of things to note here. You do need to have this login step now, but it does allow you to remove the API key, which is awesome. The second thing is that this is only for service accounts. So if you're looking to establish an OpenID Connect identity or OpenID identity, you have to do this with a service account. And that makes sense because for a variety of reasons, you typically want service accounts operating under the covers as opposed to actual identities that may represent you, for example.
Yeah, you don't want like Bill from operations to leave and then all your CI/CD pipelines suddenly break.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So if you want to read more about the motivations behind what this is all about, you can go to our blog, which is at octopus.com/blog. And Michael Richardson, who's one of our highly esteemed PMs and product guys over at Octopus, he's written this really good article around what this looks like and also talks about why we did this. And the main motivation here is better security. Because API keys can get leaked all the time. I've
Oh
done
yeah.
it. I know maybe Bob. I know you have never done it, but
Oh yeah. I thank God they're all for my my personal instances. So I'm like, yeah,
that's right.
it's not a big deal.
That's right. Incidentally, we are actually part of the. There's a program at GitHub that will automatically detect if you accidentally leak an API key in GitHub. It will reject any PRs that come in, and that's a protocol sort of thing that GitHub has. But anyways, if you're wanting to see what this looks like, there's a well-detailed blog post that kind of walks through step by step what this looks like. But once you have this established, once everything's kind of provisioned and set up and ready to go, you can then perform all the typical sort of commands you would do via GitHub Actions, like create release, push build information, all that without having to do it with an API key. And this is super awesome. And the reason why I'm incredibly excited about it is because it actually builds the foundation towards where we're going, which is with a GitHub app, which is not yet available, but it is something that we are thinking actively about. So, anyways,
Yep.
very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm that's one of the big things I'm really excited about, because not having to save API keys in, say, GitHub and have to worry about secrets and how do I share that secret and everything along those lines. It makes things so much easier. It is important to point out that for each repository, you have to specify it. So like if I had multiple repositories that I wanted to use a GitHub action for, I have to go in to that service account and I have to add each one. That's more of a implied, like, sorry, not applied, but very explicit as to what you want your security to be. It's like, I will not just let any random person use this API key. It's like, no, it has to be from this very specific repository that I've specified.
Right. Yeah, good point. All right, getting back now to the list. So that's the first one. The second one, source scripts from Git to maintain them like other assets. Bob, what is this all about?
Yeah, so let me pull up my screen, and I have a deployment process all ready to go. And I have a step here that's called verify deployment. And again, back to the Julia Childs thing, I've already have everything already set up and ready to go. But let's take a look at, let's take a look at a step that already has this, like a script embedded. And so I would have to embed this script inside of Octopus Deploy. And there's both pros and cons to doing something along those lines, but it's not the best experience, especially if you want to do things like version control your script and have a bit more control, or be able to share those scripts between projects. And so I'm really excited by this new feature where we can come in and we can add a script, just a reference to the script. So I added my repository URL, said what my credential is, said what my branch is, and then I go in and I say I want to run this script. And I can also provide any sort of parameters on top of that, and it will just work, which is one of the things I'm really excited about. Now, we've always had the ability to source script files for quite some time, but this is the first time we've been able to source it directly from Git. Previously, we had to source it where you had to package up all your scripts and then upload it into the library. Well, you don't have to do that step anymore. So it saves that additional step, and it makes things so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Important thing to note is some people, when they think about this, is when they create a release, obviously we're creating a snapshot. And so it is important
Yep.
to note that we're not pulling live from that in a release context. We are still creating that snapshot.
Yeah, so if I come in here and let's say I select my release branch, it's going to pick pick whatever version of that script or whatever version of that branch is. It's going to either be off main or whatever the case may be. It's going to use that hash and it's going to say, okay, now I've snapshotted that script. It's going to be part of that release going forward. It's going to be using that. It's not, yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's really important to notice that it's all part of that snapshot. So again, this is just to make sure that you're not going to have any surprises. Again, you don't have John coming in with his random pull requests into main that just completely changed around how that script is going to work.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Right before we go to production or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, what could possibly go wrong? No, nothing like
That's
that.
right.
So it is definitely part of that snapshot. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's jump back to the list here. Resilient Tentacle communications to reduce deployment failures. So this is more at the protocol level, and there's a blog post that
Yeah.
talks a little bit about this. But essentially when Tentacle goes to communicate back, this is the blog post in question. When Tentacle goes to communicate with server, if it can't reach server, historically, I think it was a little bit problematic, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was really the problem that we're looking to solve, and Adrian does a really good job of explaining this, is that
Yes.
we have customers who install their tentacles on machines that they may or may not even have control over, or the networks they may or may not have even control over. So, like you said, intermittent 3G cellular connection. Uh, that's a bit of an extreme edge case, but it could be anything like that, or it could just be a glitch in the matrix. And so having this capability to automatically recover that tentacle communication is really critical for a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's important to note here that this is backwards compatible. So some people who are, well
Yeah.
aware of how Octopus works, they may look at this and say, "Well, wait a minute, this is going to reissue the deployment." No, 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 it won't. So it's intelligent
Mm.
enough that we have a new service sort of aspect of this. So there's two versions now of the Tentacle service now. One is the old one. The new one is aware that if it needs to basically reissue a call, it's only doing so in a state that is valid. So it's actually not reissuing the deployment, which is nice. And Adrian goes into that
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah, and this is again, this is not this won't retry your steps either, because he calls that out in his blog post as well. If you're interested in retrying steps, there was a new feature we added, I think, in the last release, 2023.3, that allows you to retry those steps. So you can do that. So it's, to me, it's like this is just another layer of making sure that your deployments are resilient. So you have guided failures, you have step retries, and now you have resilient tentacle communication. So between all of those, hopefully your deployments are successful
Yeah,
and you don't
and
have
step.
weird
I
network
know,
issues.
and step timeouts and other things. Like it's like
Yeah, yeah,
and I just like feel like it's like that scene out of Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Sort of thing. So
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say I run into the. I just think it's funny because I'll run in. I'll configure all this stuff for demos, and then I'll forget that it's turned on. I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
That's great. All right, moving on. Elevate critical tasks to the top of the task queue. Now, before we show this, it is important to note that there is a blog post for this as well. So Ian has talked about this. He's the PM overseeing this, and basically, what this allows you to do, more or less, is go to your task queue because when you're running Octopus and you're issuing a lot of releases, etc., some of them are long-standing, so you have them queued up. You can actually go into the task queue now and just drag and drop and reorder them, which is super awesome. We call it reprioritization, but this is more like the get it out now, get it out now. So there's a
Yeah,
GIF that shows this. But do you have a demo that you want to show off here?
yeah, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I have a multi-tenanted deployment all queued up, and we're going to find out how big my task cap is because I believe it's only 5. So I'm going to go ahead and queue up all of these deployments, and so we'll be able to see that go boom, 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 and from here. Now we see we have these queued deployments. Now let's say we wanted to get the Salt Lake City release out there. I can move this right to the top,
Mm,
and it'll move Salt Lake City to be the next item that's queued. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so it's not going to stop. It's really important to make note of. It's not going to stop any of the active deployments because that would probably be a really bad thing because we have no idea like where it's at. But it will be the next thing that's picked up from the queue because the queue operates in a FIFO manner. So yep, now we see that Salt Lake City has been picked up and we can proceed on.
yeah, it's not like a debugger where you're like breaking execution. This is no wait. You have to go in the next in the queue. You can jump the queue basically.
Yeah, it's think of it like you're standing in line for Black Friday. When you're standing in line for that, you're able to go to the front of the line. That doesn't mean that the store is still open. That just means
Yes,
you're at the front of the line to get the best deals.
awesome. All right. Jumping back to the list here, we've got connect tenants to multiple projects in one step. Now, we've talked a great deal about this. We have YouTube videos that show this. We have blog posts that have been talking about this. Ian's, I think, tired of talking about this. Maybe not. I don't know. But essentially, for a long time, when people were trying to connect tenants to projects, there was a lot of mouse and keyboard. There was like a lot of click, 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 click. So you just got tired of it, and so now what you can do is you can just simply walk up and say, actually, I want this tenant to be on these projects, etc. And so let's jump back over to your demo and see how this
Yep.
works.
Yeah, so I can come in from 2 different places. I'm going to go ahead and I can connect tenants from here. and I can say I want to add these tenants, and then from here I can come in here and I can say I want them to all deploy up to production. So now I'm assigning these tenants to this particular project. Another way that I can also accomplish the same thing is if I come into my tenant screen and I don't have any projects assigned to my Grand Island tenant, I can connect multiple projects now. So I have Trident multi-tenancy, but let's imagine that I have Trident YAML, raw YAML, as it's multi-tenanted as well. I can do the same thing. So I can attack it from both angles. I can assign multiple tenants to one project, or I can assign multiple projects to one tenant, all without having to do a ton of clicking. And because again, I can just select, oh, everyone's going to get staging. Everyone's going to get staging in production for this particular tenant on something like that. So hopefully it makes things a little bit easier for adding those tenants like that.
It's just going to save you a lot of work, and you glossed over it there, but I think we've talked about it at nauseum. Is that we have the new tenants dashboard as well, which gives you access to all that shows you in a glance, sort of like tags and multiple
Yep.
projects, etc. So this is a brand new screen that we have as well, which is awesome. And the demos that Ian has shown, he's like connected like 200 tenants across a variety of projects, and it just goes whoosh, just like
Oh yeah.
rushes right through them in terms of connections. So that's great.
And I really also love this is just one of those quality of life features, which we don't really talk about all too much. It's been there for quite some time, but it's now right out on Front Street where I can come in here, I can clone an existing tenant. So I could select, say, the Lincoln tenant, and I wanted to add any O6. Think of something, Bellevue, and it's going to clone it, and it'll automatically assign the project, assign the tag sets, and we'll even go in and keep the same common variables, which you'll have to come in and fix. But it's just a nice quality of life thing as well. So we're really trying to make the managing tenants much more efficient, so you can spend less time having to worry about doing all this the little nitty gritty stuff and just get into, I just need to add a bunch of tenants and let's get it over with.
I like it. All right. Lastly, but not leastly, we have this Space ID is now available on Terraform resources to simplify configuration. What the heck does that mean? Well, we have a blog post from Dominic talking about this. This one I know a great deal about because I've been working on the Terraform provider for, well, God, is it years now?
Oh
So
yeah,
for
yeah.
so for a long time, when you provided configuration for setting up, so this is what's called HCL, stands for HashiCorp Configuration Language. Basically, when you set up the Terraform provider for Octopus, you have to tell it like, hey, I want to set up a provider instance that is connected to this address with this API with this space ID, et cetera, et cetera. In order to do this across multiple spaces, you had to set up multiple providers, and this wasn't ideal because then you would have all these provider key value pairs polluting your configs.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to set up a username password account, I would have to say what provider am I using because it's bound to this space, et cetera, et cetera. So this wasn't ideal. So what we did was we basically, to try and improve the experience here, what we're trying to do is basically provide a space ID per resource. So there's, oh gosh, there must be like at least 70 or 80 resources now available that are exposed to the Terraform provider. And so what we're trying to do now is make it available so that you can actually designate or delegate the space ID that this username password account falls underneath. So you don't have to actually use the provider, but rather you can delegate the space. Now this gives you flexibility because as you may know, you can actually utilize variables here within your HCL if you want. You can actually, it has a programming language-esque to it. So you can actually do for
Hmm.
loops, et cetera, inside of HCL. So this turns out to be really nice because when we've had customers provision like hundreds, if not thousands of accounts using HCL. And it's like literally 5 lines of HCL, but they're using a for loop within that resource. And so without that space ID, it can be a little bit challenging. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to hoist the space ID to the resource level and make it easier for you to use. So ultimately what this means is that the Terraform provider is going to be a little bit more easy to use, which is a good thing.
But that it is important to point out that API key, it has to have access to both those spaces.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So the permission model is still all the same. Yeah,
Yes, that hasn't changed. No. So,
yeah.
so yeah, there you go. Space IDs for Terraform resources. And that, as I say, just about wraps it up. Now, this is not everything that we've done. As most folks know, we've done a ton of work around bug fixes, etc. We've been working a lot also on resilient deployments. Jim
Hmm.
Pelletier and I have been talking about this on Deploy on Friday. where you can actually take a server instance and tear it down, like literally take the process offline and then bring it back up and have the process resume. So we're doing a lot of work in this space. And if you're at all interested, you can check out our roadmap, which is at roadmap.octopus.com. This will give you a general sense of the direction we're moving. And I encourage people to always take a look at this. So we have our under consideration section, but more importantly, we have our plan section. This is what's coming. And so you can see we've got our OpenIDC here. We've got our GitHub app. You've also got other aspects that are, trigger release creation on whether or not containers are updated, etc. We also have our agents for Kubernetes that we're looking at as well. So there's lots and lots of stuff coming. And then finally, if you want to get a sense of what we've released, there's also a release tab. But most importantly, there's this big blue button up in the top right corner called Submit Idea. If you have an idea for Octopus and you want to let us know, feel free to take advantage of this. Let us know how important it is, and we'll get back to you. So this is really, really important. Make this your homepage, if not a bookmark, and take a look at what we're planning.
Yeah, I won't lie. I come here quite frequently just to, it's like, okay, where are we at with this particular feature? Is it planned? I know which ones have been released, obviously, but it's like, where are we? Is this the under consideration or is this the plan?
Yes.
So it's good. I'm stoked for what we have planned because I can't wait to see a lot of the Kubernetes, specifically this agent, as well as the triggering the release off the container image update. That's going to be really nice.
Yeah, I probably should have also mentioned that when you look at these items, you can also vote. How important
Yeah.
is this to you? So you can click on these buttons. Let us know because we actually tabulate all this.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the product managers, they are looking at anything that's submitted. We do look at we do look at it and get back to you. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is using a product called Product Board. So we subscribe to
Yep.
that, and it's great for us to manage. So, anyways, so if you want to check out Octopus, good luck. And actually, the good news there is that it's already available in cloud. You can download the bits now. They're available off of our downloads page. So that's at octopus.com/downloads. We have our release notes. You can do our comparison as you can always have done. But this is what's new in 2023.4, and we hope that you are successful in your deployments going forward, and really excited about the new features in 2023.4. Bob, any final words before we wrap up?
No, I'm just really excited that it's out there and people can start using it now.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks a lot for your time and
Yep.
attention, and we'll see you on the next What's New video here on the Octopus Deploy YouTube channel. Take care.